music is one of the few elements that can tell the audience what's not on screen, because you have great dialogue, you have great acting, those are so emotive, and yet the music can kind of get inside the character's head.
I think that's what makes music so powerful. It's that unseen force that's guiding you and subliminally guiding you if it's doing its job.
It can literally change the way we feel about the exact same scene. So basically, we manipulate. We manipulate the audience with the music.
The things that we process visually use a different part of our brain than the things that we process orally with our ears. This is why the movie soundtracks, for example, can affect our emotions even if we don't know we're hearing the soundtrack. All we know is something's super creepy happening, I'm not sure why. It bypasses our brain, gets right into some emotional centers.
With The Killing Joke, it's such a dark property already that it was very important to find the right tone, find the right approach.
I know the three of us felt such a responsibility to do something that was going to really address the legacy of Batman and the legacy of Joker and the importance of this book.
It was actually kind of a dream. This project allowed me to write some of my most expressive music, to be truthful.
We wanted to give it a kind of scope that it deserved, and a scope that would match the depth of the story.
The nature of the story is so unlike a traditional Batman movie. I mean, it's basically a horror story. And I didn't want to go so over the top with the music that by the end of it, the audience was just, depressed and unpleasant.
Here's to crime.
I was struck with how intensely psychological it was. I mean, there really was going deeply into insanity.
Bruce provided us with the graphic novel, and I was completely riveted and couldn't put it down, and at the same time, equally horrified.
Michael and Christopher and I decided we were definitely going to use live musicians on this. We had a big string section and the best string players in town, and we were able to draw upon, I would say, the grandfather of string writing, who was Bernard Herrmann, from the old, psychological thrillers. And since this kind of felt that way to us, it really worked great.
Part of the horror of the Joker is the juxtaposition of things that don't go together. And that's what the Joker does here. He puts stuff together randomly and achieves a whole different vibe. And it becomes creepier and creepier because of that.
I went crazy. He's on a computer screen? Silly goose, it's all a joke. Everything anybody's ever valued or struggled for, it's monstrous. Why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing?
When we talked about casting the movie, my first and only thought really was to bring back both Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill to play Batman and Joker.
Even though over the years I've said, if I ever get a chance to do anything with Joker, my dream would be to do Killing Joke. And then when they said, okay, you got your wish, I immediately thought, oh my God, be careful what you wish for, because now you got to deliver.
Though I can't say much for this volume's condition. I mean, there is a hole in the jacket, and the spine appears to be damaged. So mean.
I don't know where that voice comes from, deep inside Mark's head, but it's uncanny, and to an entire generation of people, that's what the Joker sounds like.
I wouldn't worry yet if I were you. It's just a psychological manifestation, common among librarians. She thinks she's a coffee table edition.
Because he's a fan himself, he understands how people generally feel about the Joker and who they think the Joker is, and that's why his interpretation is so perfect.
When the world is full of care, and every headline screams despair.
When Bruce first asked me to board the song, I was really excited about it because I like musicals, but then I realized that in the context of the movie, this was going to be the most horrific part of the movie.
It's odd because when you read the comic, it's just words on a page. It's basically just a rhyme. It doesn't really feel like a song because you're not hearing music. You're not hearing him sing. But we thought, oh yeah, we literally have to have him sing.
I'm glad that Bruce actually went to James to storyboard the music section because he does know his Busby Berkeley, his Broadway musicals.
We worked on his Batman Brave and the Bold, Mayhem of the Music Meister, that musical. So it's always just really fun. We heard, oh, James is going to animate this. Oh, yes, okay. The team reunites.
I go loony as a light bulb battered bug.
James is such a gifted artist, and everything that he kind of touches with animation just turns into gold. So I think that's one of the reasons the final scene is just so effective, because they had such a master kind of at the helm.
It makes for a really tight integration between music and picture, which is what we want, and therefore it's more immersive.
I tried to honor the different panels from the comic so that as you move throughout the piece, you will see glimpses of the comic there.
When the human race wears an anxious face.
The Joker's whole point is that he perverts things that we love. He says there's no point loving anything because everything contains horror. He takes things that are associated with joy and lightness and makes them awful and perverse. And in the movie version of The Killing Joke, he does this with Broadway musicals.
Which I shall pass along to you.
The idea of the song is to counterpoint this glorious musical number with what he's actually done. So there's this balancing act that you have to do when boarding this to honor the horror of what had happened.
Isn't it interesting because the Joker, I think, of any character that I know, lends himself more to that sort of Broadway treatment than anybody. I mean, he's so theatrical.
So we actually did focus more on the Broadway number as writing a Broadway number. It's got to have a good beat, it's got to have a good melody. It actually made it more authentic to what Joker was singing, as opposed to trying to make the Killing Joke song.
Even the words to the song, they're kind of peppy. And yet, what he's saying is so dark and horrible.
When your kid turns blue, it won't worry you.
It was so dark and so real and so scary. To me, I was thinking, okay, definitely not for kids.
It was trying to find that sweet spot between making it horrible, but at the same time, not so horrible that you just want to go, jump off a building afterwards.
When a composer gets hired to do a project that has that many emotional layers, it's a godsend. It's just like the most wonderful job, because then we get to bring all of that out.
When you're loony, then you just don't give a thing.
It's Joker singing, so what does that mean? It means, you have to get the insanity, you have to get the anger, the humor, and you have to hit the notes.
Simply loony, sometimes foam and chew the rug.
I was surprised at how good a singer he was and how he really brought that mania of the character to the lyrics that were there.
The complete and total commitment of his body and his face and just everything about him was completely wrapped up in performing the song. It was absolutely electrifying.
He did such an incredible job just embodying the Joker. So the music really has to kind of subtly just sneak in and maybe terrify the audience more in a few spots.
As if I couldn't have more respect for Mark Hamill. I came away with that being even more in awe of the man.
Don't get even, get mad. Yes!
Wow, that was great.
Yeah.
The whole project benefits from Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill being back in the same room, and Tara Strong as well.
In so many different ways, The Killing Joke brought together this tremendous legacy of animated Batman.
It was like a family reunion for Bruce and his friends. And I think that everybody wanted to sing.
Yes!
The episodic stuff that we do is 22 minutes. The pacing is just boom, 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 boom. And The Killing Joke had time to breathe. That was such an amazing opportunity as a composer because then I was able to say, let's express something here.
You mind telling me what this is about?
We had a cinematic approach, and we've always kind of felt that way about all of these characters. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether they're animated or whether it's live action. To us, it's all real.
I know we've done the project justice. I hope that the fans will feel the same way. We certainly wanted to be respectful of the original work and bring something artistic and bring something meaningful to the table with what we do.
I came away from this project with just this tremendous sense of musical, creative fulfillment to be able to really get in deep with these emotions and these characters.